Praise the Lord. Today my meditation is from Psalms 105 verse 16 to 30. Verse 16 to 19 when we read it says, He called on famine on the land and destroyed all their supplies of food. And he sent a man before them, Joseph sold as a slave. They bruised his feet with shackles, his neck was put in irons, till what he foretold came to pass, till the word of the Lord proved him true. When we read about Joseph in Genesis, there it says God gave Joseph a dream. But before the dream was fulfilled, he was rejected by his brothers. He was sold as a slave. Egyptians put chains in his feet and iron collar around his neck. He served faithfully in difficult places. He spent time in prison. So Joseph goes through challenges and trials in his life. This test in Joseph's life was not destroying him, but it was preparing him for his calling. Just as God prepared Joseph for this palace, God uses our seasons of waiting, hardship, and testing to shape us for the purpose. God never allows pain without a purpose. Even when suffering feels confusing or unfair, God works in a way where we cannot see. When we are walking through pain, it does not make sense, but God can use that moment to deepen our faith and develop our character, and He prepares us for His purpose. When we go through painful life, it will become tomorrow's testimony. And what feels like loss, He prepares us for a restoration. I myself have gone through those painful seasons in my life where God later used me as a testimony in those areas of my life. God uses those pain to draw us closer. He builds and shapes our character, and He reveals His faithfulness in powerful ways. He does not waste tears, delays, or difficult seasons. So hold on to hope, because God is still writing His story, and His plans are always good even when the process is painful. As in Romans 8 verse 28 when we read, And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Verses 20 to 22 when we read, Joseph went from prisoner to prime minister in a single day. Joseph was given authority to guide Egypt's leaders and teach wisdom. The years of testing had prepared him to lead others wisely. God can change our situations suddenly. Joseph waited many years, but when God's time came, the promotion happened quickly. When we become faithful in small places, He prepares us for a greater responsibility. Joseph served faithfully as a slave and as a prisoner before he ruled Egypt. The prison was not Joseph's destination. Sometimes we look at our situation and begin to write our own destiny. We find ourselves enslaved or in chain, and we think that is the end of our story. Joseph saw a prison, but God saw a palace. Joseph saw chain, but God saw leadership. Joseph saw delay, but God saw preparation. If Joseph had judged his future by his circumstances, he might have concluded, my dream is over. But God's plan was still unfolding. When we read further, verses 23 to 25, there it says, Then Israel entered Egypt. Jacob resided as a foreigner in the land of Ham. The Lord made His people very fruitful. He made them too numerous for their foes. After Joseph was established in Egypt, Jacob and his family came there during the famine. God blessed Israel's generation, and they grew more in number. This fulfilled God's promise to Abraham that his descendants would become a great nation. Egypt was not the promised land, but it was a place of preparation. Just as Joseph was prepared in prison before the palace, Israel was prepared in Egypt before entering the promised land. Verses 26 to 30 when we read further, He sent Moses his servant and Aaron whom He had chosen. God raised up leaders to deliver them. Joseph brought Israel into Egypt. Israel multiplied and became a great nation. They were oppressed by Egypt. God sent Moses and Aaron to deliver them. When God's time for deliverance arrives, He sends the people He has prepared to fulfill His purposes. Verses 27 to 30 when we read further, these verses begins describing the plagues. Darkness covers Egypt. The Nile and the water were affected. The land was filled with frogs. These miracles shows God's power over Egypt. and prepare the way for Israel's deliverance. God not only prepares people, He also prepares the way for their deliverance. Before God fulfills a promise, He prepares the person, the people, and the circumstances. God's calling is not cancelled by difficult circumstances. God prepares the vessel before He pours out the blessing. Before God promotes us, He often prepares us. God can use seasons of waiting, hardship, and even opposition to accomplish His purpose. When the time is right, God brings deliverance. Don't measure God's ability by your circumstances. When we cannot make a way, God can make a way. When we cannot open a door, God can open a door. When we cannot see a solution, God is already working on one. For with God, nothing shall be impossible. Thank you, and may God bless you all.